She's the only keynote speaker who could outshine a disco ball. It's Event About It with Neen James. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Event About It. I'm your host, Megan Martin, and our guest this week is best known for teaching the world that attention pays, experiences matter, and pink goes with everything. She's the only strategist who shows up with a playbook and a bottle of bubbles. Welcome to the studio, Neen James.
G'day, and of course today is no different. What a delight to serve your viewers. Thank you for everything you're doing in the world. I love this podcast.
Oh, thank you for being here. We both have our champs here today, so wouldn't be. So cheers. Having you on the podcast today.
Or santé, as they say in French.
Santé. Well, we have bonded much over our love of champagne, incredible experiences, the story of Widow Clicquot. I mean, it's for those that don't know it, please go and do some homework. We'll send some links out in the show notes about it. But I had the pleasure of reading your new book that's getting ready to come out. And there was one passage that stood out to me a lot. And then I want to ask about how you even got into luxury mindset. But the quote from your book is, "Luxury begins with you, your personal brand, and the ways in which you personalize your connection with others, pay attention, and act thoughtfully and operate in the world. It's about your leadership, how you make others feel, the sensations and the memories of your leadership and your brand will affect how people think of your organization and what they tell the world about you." It's so incredibly true. And I think in today's age of AI and so much being digital, we sometimes forget the human side of things and the human side of marketing. And tell us a little bit about what got you interested in luxury mindset.
You know, I have always believed luxury is a mindset. What people may not know, if you're trying to work out this crazy accent, I hail from Sydney, Australia, so I'm Australian. And I was raised by a single mom, so two little girls, and we were not what I would call wealthy. I did not grow up in luxury. I grew up in a caravan. In the US, we call that a trailer park. So my mom, a single mom, she cleaned houses, she picked fruit, she sold flowers on the side of the road. Like that's what my mom did. But what was really fascinating about my mom is even at the end of a really busy shift, even though she was tired, she would walk through a community garden and she would pick a flower and she would bring it home, Megan, and she would put it in a glass. We called it a vase because it made us feel fancy. And my mom always made these moments matter. And what mum shared with my sister and I is it didn't matter about money or things, what you had or what you didn't have, that we all deserved luxury. And I think having this role modeling from someone so young. So I believed luxury is a mindset. I've always believed we all deserve luxury, but I think luxury is this divisive word. I think people think luxury and they think expensive handbags or fancy cars. And believe me, I'm here for all of that, but that's not really what luxury is. And so I do so much consulting for luxury and legacy brands, as you know. And I thought, well, surely there's a research study to back up my premise that luxury is a mindset, right? So I Googled luxury is a mindset. Well, wouldn't you know, there are so many studies on how luxury makes you feel, but there were no studies on how you think. And I wanted to know what brands want to know. I wanted to know things like, how does luxury impact your confidence, professional development? How does it affect your decisions? Who makes the decision? How long does it take you to make a decision? Because in my consulting for CEOs and their teams, I can't just walk into like Matthew Upchurch, who's like the CEO of Virtuoso. I can't just walk into his boardroom and go, so luxury's mindset, okay? No, like he'll be like, evidence, data, I want metrics. And so what I realized was there was no study on it, so I commissioned my own. And what the book unpacks that you mentioned, exceptional experiences, is the insight that we learned from the research. And then how do brands, event marketers, how do we actually use this information to be able to elevate our events in a way that makes us so much more memorable? We can elevate everything about it. So that's kind of what got me in. There was no study, so you know what? I commissioned my own.
That's amazing. And I also learned from reading Exceptional Experiences that there's a luxury chamber of commerce, which I'm now even more convinced that there's a group or an association for everything. So I didn't
Honey,
even
I
know that
believe that.
existed.
For sure. The World Luxury Chamber of Commerce invited me to serve on their board, which is obviously a huge compliment. And just this week, at the time of recording, I had signed a whole lot of book plates to send to them because they're giving all their luxury award winners a copy of my book, which is very generous. And for any author, that moment of signing the book or signing the book plates is such a big deal for me. And so, yeah, the World Luxury Chamber of Commerce, who knew? But they have events all over the world. They're doing some really interesting things in the world. And I think what they're trying to do is help the world understand luxury in a new way. Like, what is luxury for now, right? And so I'm very honored to be on that board.
They're doing some pretty exceptional things. I poked around their event websites and it's pretty exceptional.
Right.
Well, that segues into our very first game that I'm calling Make It Pop. We're going to serve up some real world event and marketing moments. Some are fine, some are flat, and it's up to you to show us how to take them from meh to magnificent using your signature luxury mindset. Think fewer checklists and more champagne moments. Okay, the first one. A client just had a major service fail. How do they use a champagne moment to recover?
I would say the best thing you can do is acknowledge it, right? So I think because you mentioned it before, AI, in this digital AI world, we are craving that human connection, that human touch. I would be vulnerable about it and I would acknowledge it. I would apologize, but here's the follow up. I would solve for it. Right. And so one of the things that Mike Dominguez does of Al High, we both are big fans of what he's doing there. One of the things I love is at his events, he says, this is a laboratory. So they're testing things for event marketers, for event professionals, for the clients they invite. And so if something doesn't work, they debrief it. When something works really great, they also debrief it. So I would say acknowledge it because that's what people want and bring that human side, but then show us what you learned about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you haven't had a chance to go to an Ally experience, highly
Oh,
recommend it. Dominguez's team is just hitting it
we
out of the
talk about
park
them in the
everywhere.
book because he's a brilliant
Yeah,
case study. Yeah.
he really is. They do a phenomenal job. Okay, speaker welcome or thank you gifts.
Here's why they're meh. If you give me your branded swag, you can guarantee that it's going to stay in the hotel room or I'm going to give it to the concierge. For me, I always return it, not to be like ungrateful, but I give it back to the meeting planner because I know that they've spent money on it. If it's got your logo on it, it's not a gift, it's marketing, right? And so that's one thing. Here's what I love. The best things you can do for speakers is not the thing that they have to smush into their carry-on because some of us refuse to check a bag in the US. It is the welcome amenity. The nicest thing you can do for your speaker is know something about them, a handwritten note from the GM on property or the meeting planner, your favorite drink or cookie or like something that is really unique. That I think is the biggest gift. AKA Alexandria, this fabulous little hotel I love. They have a hotel dog. I mean, every hotel needs a dog, right? So I was
Like
there.
the
I was
Copley
obsessed.
place in Boston. They also have a dog.
Right, exactly. And so Senna is the dog at AKA Alexandria. And I was obsessed with him. And the GM took a photo of us. Well, the next time I stayed on property, there was a framed photo of me and Senna in my room with a love note from Senna with his paw print on it.
Oh, that's so
That is the coolest speaker gift ever, the customization and personalization. So luxury, mindset, customization, personalization. So rather than giving every speaker the same thing, maybe find out their favorite charity and make a donation if you are so inclined. But please don't give us your branded swag.
I love that advice. This is one that I've been dying for people to amp up a little bit, but the attendee check-in experience.
Okay, so for those of you who are listening and not seeing, you can't see me rolling my eyes. Understand that those first impressions are so vital, right? And I think that event marketers need to think like a concierge, not a bellhop. Now, bellhop is important, Megan. They move our bags through the hotel. They efficiently get us to where we want to be. But I think so many of us as meeting professionals think like a bellhop, like cross it off the list, get it out of the inbox, go to the next meeting, run from one thing to the next. But we have to think like a concierge, meaning how do you anticipate needs people didn't even know they had? So, what you want to think about with that welcome experience is the signage needs to start way before they even kind of walk in. So, it's not just the conventional hotel. It has to be all of the signage. It has to be about greeters. It has to be so that I don't feel like a number. Luxury brands understand the personalization, making everyone feel like they're the only person on property, the only person at that hotel or that restaurant. We have to do the same thing, right? And so the simplest things, like how about spelling names right? How about making it super easy? How about allowing us to check ourselves in? I love a kiosk where you can just print things yourself so that you can efficiently move through. But I think what we need to consider is that check-in process. That's their first indication of what your event is going to be like. I would encourage you to have music, fun, entertainment. I would be making that the personality, whatever your theme is, bring it right in so that from the moment those doors open, it is super clear of the experience that you're going to give that attendee. Because if it's boring and transactional, that's not transformational. And in the book, we talk about moving these relationships from transactional, like here's your ugly lanyard and here's your plastic name badge, right?
Yeah.
All the way through to transformational. What can you do to make that different? You know what Alhi does that I thought was interesting? Their gifting station is right there at registration for many of their events. And that's genius, right? Because you're like, oh, yay, presents, right? And that's a whole thing we could talk about as well. But so if you want to elevate it, make it personal, make it fun, and make it in line with the theme of what you're trying to achieve.
I agree. I also think about like airline check-ins when you go to the airport, right? The 1Ks have a line like, why aren't we making, if it's a first timer, like give them a special experience, turn them into brand ambassadors. If you have legacy attendees that are coming for 10 years, like give them a separate check-in line. Like there's so many
I love
easy
that.
little ways to elevate
And
and,
pair
make
up.
it pop.
Pair up the
Yes.
legacy with the first timer. The National Speakers Association has been doing this for years. I've so often been like, you adopt someone, like you get someone who's the first timer, and then as a legacy member, you make sure they have someone to eat with. They know what's going on, breaks, and so it's super easy for you to leverage people who believe in your brand, your conference, your association, and ask them to volunteer to take care of the first timers. Have a first timers session. That behind the scenes exclusive access where the old timers, the legacy people can say, here's what I know, here's what I've learned from this event. That's genius. You could even take it a step further and you could have them do a short video you could play to the first timers before they even get on site. There's so many things we could do to elevate that check-in experience.
Yeah, that goes into my next example is the registration confirmation email or the know before you go email. I mean, there's so much tech out there to elevate these moments. You go to a lot of conferences. What would you like to see in those first two touch points? Because to your point, the experience starts before they even leave their house, like the airport and everything. So that email saying, we're excited you're coming, and the know before you go, how do we make
Yes.
those pop?
I thought if people haven't listened to your email, the session you did with Jay on email marketing, make a note. Like those of you who are in a position to write it down, go back and find that. That was a great episode. I think he gave you some genius ideas.
Hey, Deb.
So that's what I would do, some homework. What I would say though is one of the things that you've got to put yourself in the mind of the person who's receiving that email. There could be anxiety. Let's say, what on earth am I wearing? What Alhi does, let's use them as another example. They publish a mood board. So they will send you the events and the dress code for each one. So when you're packing, they even show examples for men and for women. And so what's really interesting about that is they have thought through anticipate in advance. This is what luxury brands do. Anticipate needs I didn't even know I had. They're like, what's the person concerned about? So in your know before you go, how about some visuals? How about thinking about a funny meme or a GIF or GIF, however you say it, whatever that is? Like have something in there that is animated that makes the email come alive so that people go, oh, this is a little bit of their personality. And also consider what are the concerns they're going to have. Is there going to be enough breaks? What am I going to wear? Where am I going to eat? What if I don't know anyone? All those fears, talk to that. Like instead of just having like a massive list, talk as if you might be concerned about who you're going to meet. But let me tell you, here's the attendee list. You might be wondering, what on earth should I wear to this event? This is crazy. It's Tampa in summer. Like, what on earth do you wear there, right? So, what I
Right.
think we need to consider is speak in the language, what I call the luxury language of the person receiving it, and change it so it's conversational, right? I want to think you wrote that email just for me, even though I know you sent it to the thousand other attendees. Personalization, customization.
Absolutely. And that's how you do it at scale. And I think people should lean into more video in those. There's so many AI features to make things personal
Right.
using those tools, but like put some videos, make it feel like I'm the only person at the event. Okay.
Exactly. We can do that so easily, like you say,
Okay.
automation. I when people subscribe to my newsletter, the first thing they get in their confirmation is a video from me. Like, it's short, it's easy, but it's people always write back because of that one little video. Because I say to them, "Where are you from? Like, tell me where you're from," and then they always tell me. That level of just that little touch point costs you nothing.
Absolutely. Okay. Last one before we move on to our next segment, the attendee lunch service.
Oh, okay. I have very strong opinions about this. Are you ready? So let
Ready?
me tell you the meh stuff. I hate it when the poor keynote speaker is trying to speak over the lunch meal. That stuff makes me crazy. Now, I am a speaker, for those of you who don't know. And so my contract literally says, please don't be like cleaning up or clearing if I am the lunch keynote. People want to network and enjoy each other, and we need to give them that opportunity to enjoy that. So I would suggest that you avoid having a speaker over the luncheon. It's disrespectful for the people trying to eat and have conversation and network. It's disrespectful for the servers who are trying to navigate the whole room and stay quiet. And of course, it feels disrespectful for the speaker. But what I would say is some of the things I've seen really well is options. Give people lunch options, right? And so always make sure that those luncheons are super well labeled for people who might have dietary. Give them choices instead of like a plated, let them go serve or find the box lunch or make their little box themselves. So I think choices are vital with the luncheon service. But could we please just let people have their lunch? Like, let's not try and schedule every single minute. I'm going to keep using Alhai as an example because people know the brand and they know Mike does a great job. They are super smart too because in their meals, especially at dinner, I think they even curate where you're sitting so you get to meet different people. Now, it's a really attention to detail. It's a fantastic thing they do. But what I love is it means I'm always going to meet someone new. So they use place cards. They go to the trouble of elevating the lunch and dinner service just so that they know you're getting to meet different people. And so I think we can be more deliberate about it. But let's just make it super easy for people.
I agree. I love the choice option for lunch. I mean, especially with wellness being such a big part of everyday life, more than it's probably ever been. It's super important. And I think the scalable option for that, if you have thousands of people and can't do the place cards, give some talking points or some questions to ask, like help facilitate the networking at the lunch. Like
Oh my God.
it
Yeah. Can
doesn't
I
take a
tell you
lot.
about something? I was the keynote recently in Chicago for the coolest group. It was the Association of African American Financial Advisors. One of the coolest events I've done all year. Love them. But you know what they did? Sheena, who's the CEO, she had this red cap on the table, and it was CEO, and it was Chief Engagement Officer. So what she did was the way they encouraged the interaction was they appointed someone to be the chief engagement officer. They took a photo, they had responsibilities, accountability, and everyone loved it. And it was the simplest low cost solution. So there was a table host. So if you didn't know anyone, they would make you feel welcome. They had all these topic conversations. It was genius, cost nothing
Yeah.
except that.
Well, there's that scalable personalization. I think so many
Yes.
people are worried about how to leverage technology to do scalable personalization and have these champagne moments. And it really doesn't, it's just thoughtful things. Like it
We should
doesn't have
define
to
a
be.
champagne moment for our listeners. So, in the book, I talk about what a champagne moment is, and it's just something that brings you joy, makes you smile. Think of like all of these little bubbles, like in a glass, all these things that make you smile. We can do that for our attendees. We can do it in our marketing so that people feel like this is something that maybe that they love and treasure, but they might want to share with someone else.
Now we're going to move into my favorite part, our favorite therapy session, the vent of the week. This is where you let it out. Any of the fails, the chaos, are you kidding me moments. What is irking you about the wild world of events?
I have been a keynote speaker for a bajillion years. Okay, so I've been around a long time. I have done all the things speakers need to do. I've driven through the night. I've slept on the floor. I've ran into Nordstrom to get an outfit. Like you name it, I've done it, right? And the thing that I think speakers find one of the toughest things is having to send our slide deck in advance. Let me explain. I know as the meeting professional that you like to have it off your checklist. I totally get that. And I know if you are in compliance industries, my financial services, my pharmaceuticals, I know it's really important. But the challenge is if you're working with a speaker like me who is proud of the fact that I customize for every room, that I'm not going to know, 6 weeks in advance the customization that's required, because chances are I probably have 5 other events before yours. That's one thing. But the other thing is so many moments happen. For me, I love listening to the CEO. I often follow the CEO after that, they do the update and then I'm the keynote. And I want to be able to add something to my slide deck that's really customized. One of the things that I just mentioned here, and something that I'm well known for in my exceptional experiences keynote, is I say, think like a concierge, not a bellhop, because I want people to anticipate needs as a leader as opposed to just cross things off a list. So I will often take a photo of me and the concierge, and I want to drop it in the slide deck so that the audience goes, oh, I saw her, I saw him, I met that person. And so the customization that some of us like to do as speakers is taken away. But then it falls on the poor AV crew, who I think are the real heroes of every event, because in your tech check, you're saying, can I just change a slide? Can I just do this? And I hate doing that to them because they have 1,000 other things that are much more important than our silly slide decks. So one thing that I think would be really helpful is if you are open to the speaker using their own laptop, that can be helpful. But for the big shows, the really highly produced shows, build in more time with the tech check so that if the speaker does want to customize, so that your audience knows it's just for them. The biggest benefit to the meeting professional is it's just for your room.
Well, you want it customized. You want it.
You say you want it customized, but you want my slides 6 weeks in advance. So I think that is just a thing. And look, it's, as a professional speaker, understand that I know that this is a champagne problem. Like, it's not going to cure world hunger. I know it's not the biggest concern in your life, but please know, in order for us to stand in service of your audience and really give them this experience that is just for them, what happens is we end up using more high level, generic kind of conversations or slides, which, is fine, and no criticism to those people who do that, but I'd rather customize. So I'd rather.
Speakers are a big investment. Don't you want to get the most out of your speakers? So let them customize the presentation. I think the solve here is just allowing more time for that tech check, right? Like coming in a little earlier, giving a little more time to run through the slides, make sure they're formatted correctly. Because that's really the end of the day why we want them in advance, is just to make sure it's all there.
Of course it is. And I think speakers have a responsibility to show up on time for their sound check. I think that the AV crew are some of the most important people in the room. I love them. And so I always make sure they're like my best friends, because they can make or break your presentation, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the biggest compliment to any speaker, me especially, is when you get to the end, you get off, you got to take your microphone off, because I carry my own microphone as well, which gives me big respect from the AV crew. But I love it when they're like, oh my God, that was great, because they hear 1,000 speakers like in any few weeks, right? So look, it's an event, I know, but let's see how we can kind of partner more so that your audience knows it is just for them, it is customized. That's personalization at scale.
Absolutely. I love it. Okay, last up, it's time to event about it. It's the part of the show where you get to spill the tea on a memorable event moment, whether it was a huge success, a total disaster, or just pure chaos. So let us in. What's your story?
I remember the meeting planner saying to me before I landed on site, the room is just not what you're used to.
Ooh, I was like, those are not good words.
I mean, I've spoken everywhere, but every speaker goes, okay. And so I thought I would sneak into the room the night before, which I always like to do wherever possible. And there were poles everywhere. And you all listening to this, you know the rooms I'm talking about, where there are older buildings and there are massive, not little poles, massive concrete poles in all these, and they put tables around them and a stage. And I know they tried to find the best place for the stage. So if that wasn't enough, the next day I told the meeting professional, it's fine. I'll play peekaboo with the audience. I'll walk around. Like I did everything I could to engage all the people. If that wasn't enough, they decided that was going to be the time where they would have a fire drill. Now, most speakers, if you've been doing this long enough, you've had fire drills in your presentation.
A literal fire drill. Like we use fire drill a lot of like things that pop up, but like a literal fire drill.
Literal fire drill. And then what they realized was, and they were like, well, we don't know if it's a drill. And I was on stage, so my job as a speaker is make everyone feel safe and calm and say, let's just, take a moment. Let's wait to hear from like what the hotel does. It was a significant event. But then what happened was they couldn't turn it off. They realized it was a drill, but then they couldn't turn off the alarm. What's hilarious is then they have to send for the fire department to come turn off the alarm, and just didn't stop. And I got the giggles. And so I was like, here's an exercise for you all to do at your tables, because you can't think when you've got the sirens going. And then at one point I said to the meeting planner, I think we should just like take a 20-minute break. Let's all do that. So that's what we did. And then I came back and then I was reading my keynote. I still get notes about that particular event to this day. People are like, I cannot believe you still like did that. So we can't avoid that as event professionals. Like we can't avoid a fire drill. But I think making sure that you're hiring talent that can handle it from the main stage, and that the meeting professionals also have that great relationship with your talent, whoever they are, whether it's an industry speaker or an external speaker. But yeah, I mean, the fire drill, that's a good one.
I've never had that happen to me, thank goodness. But something for meeting planners to add to their, checklist with their venues. Like, are we scheduling a fire? Here's our agenda. Are we scheduling anything during these like critical keynote moments? Well, your third book, Exceptional Experiences, is about to be released. It's an incredible book. I devoured it start to finish in one sitting. It's so good. We talked a little bit about your experience elevation model, which is all in the book during the Make It Pop segment. Tell us a little bit more about this model, sort of how you came up with it, and plug your book. Why should everybody read it?
When I was writing this book, what I realized is we're often saying to people, you should surprise and delight your clients. But how, right? And so this book has been designed for leaders who need to drive revenue, or who want to really differentiate their brand, or perhaps you want to create advocates. The experience elevation model is the evolution of the work I did in Attention Pays. Many people know that's my body of work. And what I've always said is you can't manage time, you can manage your attention. And so attention management's always been very important to me, because I realized attention is just about connection, right? And you said it in your opening comments that we're all craving this human connection. What luxury brands do well is they have the human connection. I am personally on this mission to have every person feel seen, heard, and valued. And the book helps you do that. Because as a leader, if you are responsible for revenue, if you are responsible for results, what the book's going to help you do is walk you through this model to give you very, very specific systems of elevation you can apply. Some for no cost, some for a small investment. And they're all based on all of the lessons of all the luxury legacy people that I know and the brands I work with. So it's bringing luxury into the everyday, no matter what kind of business you have.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's in any business, any segment, especially in the events world, it's really easy to make those little champagne moments happen for little to no cost.
For sure. And for those of you who are listening, like if you see a champagne moment, something that brings you joy, use the hashtag champagne moments, tag me, Neen James, and then I'll be able to share it with the world too. Because while the world is in the state that it is in right now more than ever before, we need moments of joy. And so if you can help bring joy to other people, and those who are listening, you have all these moments of joy that you might take for granted. But if you capture them and make them share worthy, it's also an extension and a very lovely marketing strategy that makes other people go, I want to be at that event. I want to experience that.
Yeah, that's how you create that FOMO. So that's a great segue. Where can people buy a copy of your book, and where can they engage with you the best?
Anywhere that your favorite books are sold, you can buy this book, right? So if you support Amazon, that's great. If you Barnes and Noble, like all of those majors. I grew up loving independent bookstores. So there is a fantastic website called bookshop.org. So if you love bookstores like I do, it'll point you to your favorite independent. But you can go to neenjames.com and it will outline all of the different places you can buy the book. And that's definitely the best place to connect with me. But if you want to follow my adventures, Instagram is where I play every day. And so that's a very easy way. Neen James is who I am on Instagram.
And you'll learn all the champagne facts and moments if you follow Neen on Instagram. It's
True.
always bright and colorful day when you find Neen on Instagram, that's for sure. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for joining another episode of Event About It, where we turn event mishaps into marketing gold. If you enjoyed the chaos, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who needs a good laugh. And don't forget to head over to eventaboutitpodcast.com, send us your events and stories to be featured on a future episode. And while you're there, you can catch the Event About It after show with dynamic dialogue with Neen, where we're going to talk about personalization at scale, creating those champagne moments, elevating your leadership, and guilty pleasures that recharge our batteries. And until next time, keep growing, keep laughing, and definitely keep eventing about it.